Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to this second week of Music Recital. Today we have with us Michelle Girardo, and she has been our soprano in the Spanish worship or Latino worship service. Welcome, Michelle. We are very glad to have you here. So tell us, you are currently a master's student at the University of Houston. What exactly are you planning on getting your degree?
So I'm in the last semester of my master's in vocal performance and pedagogy, so singing and teaching singing. My dream is to be an opera singer, and we'll see what happens after graduation.
Yes, you've told me a lot about your plans and all of that. For the record, I am one of her voice students, and it has been a very interesting time being her student, and she's a wonderful teacher. So if you need some vocal lessons, she is the woman to go to for that. So Michelle, tell us, why did you decide to pursue music as a career?
So I grew up in a very musical household. My dad is a church choir director, and my entire family sings. We all grew up singing and playing musical instruments and being in band and choir and singing at church every Sunday. So it was always available to me, and I'm really lucky for that. But it was also a really important part of how I grew up and understood the world and came to terms with my emotions and connected with other people. Mm-hmm. So when I was deciding what to pursue, there was really no question about it. I couldn't imagine doing anything else with my life.
That's great. And you've been with us here in this church for about a year. You started at the same time we had to close the church down. She came in and she helped us with the Latino worship service. Tell us, how has been your experience? Have you liked it, or yeah?
I love it. It's been really interesting because a big part of churches is the community, and so it was kind of weird coming in and not actually being able to meet most of the people in the community, but I felt really welcomed both by Ben and Pastors Gloria and Freddie Diaz, and it's just been fantastic. I am not fluent in Spanish, but I've been working on it, and it's gotten so much better in a year, and I can't wait for us to open up again when it's safe and to practice my Spanish with the people in the community.
Yes. Almost all of our musicians have expressed the need of being with the congregation and actually being in community with them in person. So yes, we appreciate that. So remember, this music recital is meant to fundraise for our Young Latino Scholarship Fund here at our church. We have very good news. Up to now, we have collected about $1,200. And remember, this is a 4-week event, so there is still opportunity to keep donating, becoming part of our donors list. And basically, what this fund is for is to financially help our young Latino congregants to pursue their dream in obtaining their college degree and going on to higher education. So this is a ministry that we all thought we would be able to help out, and our families are very grateful for this. So up first, we have our first piece, which is called Du bist der Ruhe. It's German, and it's written by Franz Schubert. So Michelle, tell us more about Schubert.
So Schubert was a composer in the early 1800s. He is kind of a transition from classical music of Beethoven and Mozart into the Romantic period. He was actually not well known or famous in his lifetime. It was actually Franz Liszt who championed his works and got his works out to people like Schumann and Felix Mendelssohn and all of the people who we think of as the romantic composers in German music. He was very prolific. He wrote around 1,500 songs, and about a third of those, 600, were Lieder, which is the German word for a song, so a vocal piece, generally with voice and piano. One Lied, 2 Lieder. And he's actually from Austria, but Austria and Germany were very connected musically in that time.
Right. So in this piece, you're going to hear broken up chords in the piano, and very long melodic phrases in the voice. So Michelle, tell us more artistically and poetically what is significant here.
So Schubert was very influenced by the poetry. It was basically, he used the poetry and the music to be a commentary on the poetry. So one of his very famous pieces is Gretchen am Spinnrad, which means Gretchen at the spinning wheel. And in that piece, the piano accompaniment is imitating, it sounds like a spinning wheel. In this piece, it's a little bit different because the title of the piece, Du bist die Ruhe, it means you are peace, you are repose. And so it has a way different feel. It's very simplistic, not simplistic, but very calm, and it's almost like a glass lake in the piano. And it's also reflected in the poetry. So this person it's not that kind of fiery love until a little bit in the last verse. It's very much very secure, and it seems like a very intimate moment between the singer, the poet, and the object of their love.
Right, yes. So yes, near the end when we have our climax, Schubert does something very interesting, and you see it in many of his pieces, and including in his piano solos. And what he does here is he does an abrupt key change, and he's one of the early pioneers in the 1800s that started doing this. And so he goes from an E flat major chord to a B major chord, and that is very, very rare in between classical and romantic music. So Michelle, tell us, what is the significance of this and the words behind this transition?
Yeah, so the words are, the temple of my eyes is lit by your radiance alone. Oh, fill it holy, fill that temple holy. So it's very, very emotional and very romantic, and it's the first time in this piece that we've felt kind of passion, and there's not a whole lot of dissonance in this piece other than words like Schmerz, which means pain. I feel this pain, but I can feel good. Fill up my love with your love.
Please enjoy our performance of Du bist die Ruhe.
Des
So up next, we have our second piece. It's called Le Petit Pigeon Bleu by Louis Bates. He is very obscure and not well-known composer. Can you tell us more about this person?
Yes, he's from France. His dates were 1895 to 1953, so the early 1900s. There is not a whole lot known about him. He's actually mostly well known for directing and being the artistic director of the Paris Opera for a while. He was actually there and he conducted the premiere of the Rijksprogres in Paris, which is a famous Stravinsky opera. He's also written some film scores and other things, but there is not a lot other than that. That is Louis Bates in a nutshell. The poetry in this piece, so this is a song cycle, so it's 4 songs connected by a theme, and the theme is birds. So it's called Chansons pour les oiseaux, songs for the birds. So this is the second piece, so Le Petit Pigeon Bleu, the little blue pigeon. And the poetry is by Paul Faure, who is a symbolist poet, who is way more famous than Louis Bates. Yeah. A lot of famous composers, such as Faure and Debussy, who influenced Louis Bates, they set poetry by this poet. And symbolism is a very important and key aspect to understanding these pieces. Particularly this piece, there's a lot of imagery and symbolism that are biblical in nature. So we have deux personnes, so 2 people, so Adam and Eve. Yeah. There is a woman telling the stories. So the story of this piece is that I wish I could be a little bird sitting on this little thatched roof and listening to you tell stories. And so these stories are biblical. There's the rainbow for Noah and the Ark, and a couple others that are very interesting. And this one is very whimsical in nature, and something musical to listen for at the very end. There's these boom, boom, boom at the very end, and it sounds to me, my interpretation is that the bird is flying away off into the sunset, off into the world.
Yes, and even there's another reference to that flight, and that's when we have a chromatic scale in the middle of the piece. It just starts from a low B and goes all the way to a high E on the piano range, and that's also a very good analogy to the bird's flight. I took a liking to this piece a lot, especially because it had the theme of flying, and that's something that me as an engineer is always learning and discovering more about, especially in my research. For all the engineers that are watching out there, you know that there are 2 words to describe a fluid flow. One is laminar flow and the other one is turbulent flow. Laminar flow is when you have a very smooth flow that there's no disruptions. It's almost like a glass-like fluid flow. And we have also a turbulent flow, which is the complete opposite. It's very chaotic and very unpredictable. Here in this piece, we have a very smooth flowing of melodic phrasing in the piano and in the voice as well. And it just reminds me, this is what a bird, when it's flying, is going through. It's going through very undisturbed flight, and it's just bringing me back to that image of the bird flying. Very melodic here.
It also kind of parallels a mother telling a story to her children. There kind of has these little twists and turns, but it's still very whimsical and for the children.
Right. Would you like to comment on the last phrase that you sing?
Yes. So it's very interesting, and it goes along with the symbolist and the biblical allusions. So the text is tout comme un ange écoutant le bon Dieu. So it's all like an angel listening to the good Lord. So it's comparing this bird, this blue bird, to an angel listening to these stories.
Yes. Also, this piece has remnants of cubism in there. Would you like to talk more about that?
Yeah, so this piece doesn't have as many. Louis Bates was he's really hard to categorize, but he has some elements of cubism. So cubism as in like kind of breaking things apart and putting them back together in a way that doesn't exactly make sense. Actually, the piece that comes after this in the cycle, L'Oiseau Bleu, is much more cubist in its approach. Basically, it's a list of names and things and fairies and muses, and a carrot is in there too. It doesn't really make sense, but there's actually a painting, a cubist painting of the same name that was around the same time. So it seems like he was influenced by that movement, and so it's kind of the symbolist, like there's all of these things that make sense individually, but together they don't quite make sense, but it's more of an aesthetic that you're taking in. And I think you kind of get that it's that glassy aesthetic of there's this bird, but in this piece it's more whimsical than in some of the others. Right.
If you would like to learn more about Cubism, the Menil collection here at Houston has a lot of abstract painting and a lot of abstract works. I believe there's some of Picasso's work, and Picasso's really tied into Cubism. So if you would like to learn more about that, go ahead and check out the Menil collection. So yes, please enjoy our second performance of Le Petit, Pigeon Bleu. I'm trying to get my French correct.
Le Petit Pigeon Bleu.
There we go.
Les chênes et les carpes, les hoches